Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam and welcome. Charit Sudha, The Life of Love, biography of Sri Srimad Radharaman Charan Das Dev, the veritable embodiment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's universal religion of love, by Dr. o.b.l Kapoor. Sri Mahavira Radharaman Ki Jai, Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai, Jai Jai Gaur, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Chapter 13, Sannyas Initiation. Though Bhargava Mahasai was now so called, he was for the temple of Navadvip, for the same old 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐵, but the time had now come when it became necessary for him to cast away the mantle of 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐵 and choose the garb of a Babaji or a Vaishnav sannyas. Perhaps the necessity was created by the name Bhargava itself, for there must be conformity between the name and the form. Perhaps it arose on account of the evangelic mission he was asked to fulfill. He took sannyas from Sri Radharaman Das Dev, an aged Vaishnav of about 85 and disciple of Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who was respected in Navadvip as a Siddha Mahapurush. Radharaman Das Babaji gave him the name Sri Radharaman Charan Das Dev. Sri Radharaman Charan Das. Sri Radharaman Charan Das Ki Jai. He was happy to have a disciple like him and showered all his affection upon him. Meeting Chaitanya Das. One day when Sri Radharaman Charan Das had gone to the temple of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, he saw a handsome boy about 20 years old weeping before Mahaprabhu and saying, "You brought me out of home, out of hell, to take me to the paradise where love, peace and happiness reign supreme, and showed me in a dream the great Mahapurush who will carry me there. But where? But where? Oh, where is that Mahapurush to be found? The life of my life, the soul of my soul? How can I live without him anymore?" But as he wept his tears and turned round, he saw Bhargava Mahasai standing behind him. He was stunned for a while, but the next moment he fell at his feet and began to weep. Babaji Mahasai lifted him up and gave him a loving embrace. The boy said, "Baba, yesterday I was lying under a tree near Shantipur. I was in great distress because I was not able to find a guru and was praying to Mahaprabhu. Toward the end of night, I had a dream in which Mahaprabhu came to me and said, 'Be calm, my boy. You will find your guru when you come to me, to my temple tomorrow.' He also gave me an idea of the features of his face and the form of his body. He said that he was known in Navadvip as 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐵. I am sure you are that Mahapurush. Now have mercy on me and accept me as your servant by giving me mantra." Babaji Mahasai said, "Is your name Chaitanya Das? Do you live in the Kachar district? Mahaprabhu is extremely kind to you," indicating thereby that Mahaprabhu had already bidden him about his initiation, and he immediately gave him the mantra. Jai Gaura Hari, Jai Radharaman Mahavira, Jai Chaitanya Das. Then Chaitanya Das, previous Chaitanya Das, he was in Shantipur praying and crying to Mahaprabhu, where is my Guru, my Sadguru? And then Mahaprabhu in a dream revealed him this Mahapurush who will be his Guru. Tell in the dream the features, face, name. And then this boy in the next day in the temple of Mahaprabhu, he met him to Sri Radharaman Charan Das Dev. Spectacular. Beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. The Festival of Dogs. This is maybe one of the most known and interesting leelas of the so many leelas of Bhargava Baba, Sri Radharaman. Please listen attentively. One day when Babaji Mahasaya was returning from Mahaprabhu's temple for performing kirtan with his party, a witch came and joined the procession on the way. The Sankirtan party stopped at places and sang, and then proceed with redoubled vigor, singing the Sankirtan with maddening peals. Every time the party stopped, the witch would pause till the party passed by, and then she will roll and toss on the ground, just as a devotee will do to bless his soul. When the Sankirtan was moving to one place to another, this dog was rolling on the ground to take the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas and Bhade Baba. She went on doing this and followed the party to their destination, and then she found it in her heart to stay with them at their place. They called her Bhaktima, Mother Devotion, for she was no ordinary dog. She was never found falling out with the rest of her species, as other dogs would, but always keeping company with the devotees and regularly attending the Sankirtan at home and abroad wherever it was held. Days went on, and Bhaktima was taken ill. She was wasting away day by day, till one day it was felt she was going to shuffle off her mortal coil. And so the Sankirtan was held in her hearing to pour down the Lord's blessing on her departing soul. So she passed away with the Lord's name on her ears, and her body was thrown into the sacred stream of the Ganges, a departure to be envied by saints with hopes of salvation in afterlife. Here in this festival, there is one interesting part that is not mentioned here. Maybe they will mention later, but I want to mention it right now, in case that is not later. Happens that Bhaktima, this dog, was on the road on the way, and Bhargava Baba saw her, and she was crying. Bhargava Baba stopped in front of her and started looking at her, listening the crying of this dog. And Bhargava Baba understood on that very moment that this dog had lost his baby, his puppies. And as a mother suffered by the loss of her child, Bhaktima also was crying on pain because of this. And Bhargava Baba started speaking to her, to the dog, and said to her that you should not suffer, because maybe you lose some of your puppies. But now you are mother of everybody. You have been winning all these companions and friends. That was all the Sankirtan party of Barha Babaji Maharaj. It's not possible to measure the love, the compassion of Barha Baba. And then he said to her, you before were living alone. Now you have all your family here. Come with us. And from that moment on, Bhakti Ma was with them all the time until the end of her days. And this is what happened here. The Chira Mahotsava was duly performed as usual after the departure of a devotee. On the fourth day after her demise, and Babaji Mahasai thought of giving an entertainment service to the Vaishnava for blessing her soul in the land of bliss. This entertainment was accordingly held on the 14th day after her departure. Babaji Mahasai said that some of her kin must be fed to complete the ceremony in the proper way. His attendants were struck dumb with surprise to hear this strange proposal from the lips of our Barha Babaji. For whoever heard that dogs could be formally invited to dinner and made to act accordingly? But there was one, our old friend Navadvip Das Babaji, who had the nerve to believe in everything that fell from Babaji's lips. He started up and said, well then, please let me know what I must do to see it done. Babaji Mahasai said, why, it is so simple. It is so simple. You should only prostrate yourself whenever you meet any of the dogs in the street and tell them with folded hands, we humble solicit the favor of your company along with your friends and relatives at the dinner service to be held tomorrow in memory of our late lamented Bhakti Ma at the premises of our Guru Deva in the Barhal Ghat quarter of the city, and so it should be done. Now this is the usual form of invitation, letters addressed to our human guest on such occasion, and we may readily guess at the incredible impropriety of this address to be delivered to dogs for similar purpose, and the heavy responsibility of the man appointed to shoulder this mighty task. Navadvip was only too keenly conscious of the charge laid to his care, and he fell at his Babaji's feet with tears in his eyes. He felt that it was something which he could never hope to accomplish by himself, united by the mysterious powers on high, and Babaji Mahasai slapped him on the back and let him go. Navadvip was surprised. He staggered, he reeled and tottered from side to side, and he walked, and one would have taken him for a drunkard or a madcap who met him in the way. But on close scrutiny, one might have seen that he was absorbed, the figure of a saint of power to work miracles at his own sweet will. And so he went and took a round in the city, acting up to the biddings of his master, till it was nightfall when he returned back to his lodging. Next morning, preparations were going on for the proposed entertainment, and Vaishnavas were summoned to join the festival. When news arrived that some of the leading Vaishnavas came to think that their prestige will be at stake if they will go and join a festival where dogs were some of the invited guests, Barha Babaji went personally to the Barha Akhara to settle the affair, but to no purpose. Some of them were inexorable. but the festival was held in spite of their stout resistance, and 1,000 others came to witness the strange performance. Some of these guests had a shrewd suspicion that it would end in a farce after all, for evidently it was something impossible which could never be brought about. Others had great confidence in the Babaji and thought he could make impossible possible when he had a mind to do it. Then came Radheshyam Baba, and all stood up and prostrated themselves before this worshipful personage. He was affectionately disposed toward Bhargavaji Mahasaya, and he began to take him to task for setting his hands to a task which could not on the face of it be accomplished at all. He also urged that he would be sorely aggrieved if the proposed entertainment of dogs would prove a failure, for he could not brook to hear Babaji Mahasaya belittled by anyone, although our Babaji himself might not take it to heart and laugh it away. Babaji Mahasaya argued that God, they all agree affirm, was omnipresent, present in dogs as well as in men, and so appeals made to God in the dogs must necessarily have the same effect as those made to God inherent in men. He prayed them to remember that God came out of a pillar and manifested himself as Narasingha when Prahlad appealed to him to show himself to his demon father Hiranyakashipu. So, as it is true that God is in all being, by the same truth shall the dogs come and take their share in the proceeding of the day. He concluded by saying that it was their want of faith in the Lord that made them suspect the practicability of the whole thing. The day wore on, and the assembly were just hoping to see their skeptical prophecies fulfilled, when behold, the dogs actually began to appear, one by one. Bhargavaji Mahasaya saw this. He started to his feet at once. He prostrated himself before his cunning guests, and duly received them as he showed them to their seats on the royal road at the Thames, as he showed them to their seats at the royal road at the Barhalghat. There was a great sensation amongst the people, and they gazed one another in dumb surprise. The news spread, and thousands others came to witness the strange performance. Oh wonder! It is possible that dogs will accept human invitation and come as guests in response to our human appeals. Maybe they are come only in expectation of the bits and crumbs thrown away on such occasions. But no, not one, 2 or 4 of them, for the matter of that. They come in crowds. Some 50 to 60 of them have already appeared on the scene. And what was more wonderful, dogs will quarrel, we know. They will fly at each other's face whenever 2 dogs will meet, but no. These dogs came and sat down quietly side by side, as we men should do in our entertainment halls. It was something phenomenal, indeed, and men stood on both sides of the public road to notice the strange proceeding of the unheard of affair. Babaji Mahasaya was transported beyond measure to find that his God sent his grace to show to the skeptical multitude what true faith could do even at the present age in the teeth of the gigantic disbelief so foolishly entertained in the spirit of spiritual truth. His eyes reddened with emotion as he threw the skirts of his clothes round his neck and humbly besought his God in the dogs to issue orders for the dinner to be served. At this, all the dogs looked upon to him at once, and he knew what they say. after which he instructed his men to supply his guests with the plantain leaves and serve them up with all the items for the entertainment rolled into a mass for their acceptance. So it was done, his bidding performed. The dogs were severally served with bowls of their leaf plates on the royal road. Now look here, wonder again. Dogs with edible matter before them, and they will not touch, they will not partake of food supplied to them. All the leaves were served one by one, and they sat upright when 𝐰𝐸𝐺𝐸 spoke in a broken voice and with tears in his eyes, requesting them to begin. At this time, a black dog came and sniffed at the leaves, after which the dog fell to their leaves. Cries of "Hari! Hari!" and "Ulu! Ulu!" were heard on all sides around, and they barely seemed to rend the skies above. It was a scene of scenes enacted before the wondering multitude, and their exclamations of roars of applause echoed and re-echoed in all quarters of the city. The service ended, the dogs turned away from the leaves, and then an earthen pot filled with water was offered to each of them. They drank of the pot and sat still. Bits were taken as Mahaprasad from their lips and water in a pot as a wash from off their feet. For they were Vaishnavas indeed, and ordinary dogs, nay, they were God himself invoked and incarnate by the power of the mighty faith in the omnipresence of God. And then 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸 again folded his hands and prostrated himself before them, asking them if they were satisfied and requesting them to pardon any shortcoming of the part of his attendants and retire to their own places at their own sweet will. The dogs Vaishnavas then left the scene one by one as they came, and 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸 in a paroxysm of transcendental joy rolled and tossed on the blessed leaves from one side to another, again and again. The men scrambled for a morsel of the Mahaprasad, and our Radhashyam Baba embraced him heartily as he blessed him, darling, with tearful eyes before he took leave to repair to his lodging. 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸 gathered the Mahaprasad in a lump, offered it to the part spirit of Bhakti Ma, and then partook of it in high glee along with his attendants in the ashram. Jai Bhargava ki jai. It was about 10 o'clock in the night when it was perceived that a plateful of prasad was lying unnoticed, and 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸, coming to know this, asked his men to keep it intact, for it struck him one of his guests was yet to come, and it was to be set apart for him in case he would turn up in the night. After a while, 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸 was coming out of his bedchamber when he found a red dog lying at the door of his room. The dog saw him and got up at once and cast significant glances at it. Looked up to him. He called Chaitanya, his mate in charge of the prasad, and asked him to serve prasad up to the guest at once. Chaitanya acted up to it, and Navadvip Das, now coming up and looking at the newcomer, exclaimed that verily it was the same dog he met first of all, and the same whom he requested to convey the message to each and every one of the king's folk, and bring them all to the scene of occurrence. So now they all saw why this particular guest was late, for he had to go above and send them up before he himself could come to take his share of the entertainment. Wow! Now, to whom is the credit due? Whose glory should we sing, Bhakti Ma or 𝐵𝐸𝐺𝐸? The dog Vaishnavas or Navadvipdas, whose fervent appeals brought them to the 𝐼𝐶, or God himself and faith in God, which is at the root of this grand performance? Yes, of course, it is faith, and faith in God, which is to be cherished above everything else. Faith, which will open fresh vistas for human understanding to comprehend the high God and his higher laws, whose operations will pass for miracles in the eyes of men. Yes, faith, which is the source of all power and love and joy, to which we are all entitled as children of immortal bliss, and faith, which will dispel all ignorance and bring us face to face with God, and sweetness and light, and the spirit of love, which is in himself and him alone. We will have more instances to show that this faith is in our Babaji Mahasaya enabled him to cure many diseases, nay, to stop great epidemics like the plague in Calcutta and cholera at Puri, for the matter of that, and even invest him with the power of bringing men back from the horrid jaws of death to life in this world again. Such instances were only too frequent in the life story of these great men. We will not enter here into these details, for the final triumph of faith lies not in these petty miracles to overpower the feeble mentality of the world-wise busybodies of the workaday world, but in the fact that faith alone can bring to us all that we are hankering after in life. Faith alone can give us our Lord of love, who is the one eternal fountain of bliss profound, and we think we have seen enough of our Babaji Mahasaya, but this time to get at this truth of truths to guide our destinies in the journey of life. May we all cherish this faith in the Lord in our hearts of hearts, and may we all bask in the moony sunshine at the feet of our Lord of love. Shri Radharaman Charan Das Dev ki jai, the life of love ki jai, Shri Charit Sudha ki jai, Shri Mahavira Radharaman ki jai, Jai Nitai, Jai Gaur, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Please give like, share on your social media. Help me to keep spreading the glories of such a saint. Mahavira Radharaman Charan Das Dev ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.